Be mindful of that. Okay, so again, officially welcome to everybody in the session. This is session 2 of Placemaker Challenge 2022, which we titled Inspire the Parks. And today, the agenda of this meeting is to share some ideas about what we are planning to do all around the world in regards to the challenge. So what kind of ideas we have in mind, and how we are going to parkify our local parks or inspire our local communities to do something with the parks. For that purpose, we have also 2 panelists, which will give to whoever wants to share an idea a little bit more feedback. But of course, we are not that many in the session as well, so we will be open also for everybody to just jump in and give each other's feedback, because that's part of the idea of this concept. So that said, just a second, I would like to invite first Madeline, who is the first panelist for today, and Anna is the second. So they will have a little bit of dedicated time for them to show a little bit more about their work and inspiration in regards to parks and placemaking in general. So Madeline is from the Placemaking US leadership team. She is from the very beginning part of this challenge. So she's from the core members, so to speak. She's focused on equity, inclusion, and access. And she believes that parks are paid by the people, for people but people don't really have access to park space sometimes. So I think I'll directly give the word to you, Madeline, to just present your passions about park before listening to the ideas that
thank you, Todor. Yes. I think Ryan is sharing my screen right now, so we can take a look here. And I'm going to quickly go through just some of the things that we've encountered in working and managing a downtown district in Santa Ana. So the first thing is, this is an image overview of the city. And we've done tons of different kinds of activations in our streets, in our plazas, in our promenades, and specifically in our downtown, there happens to be 3 urban parks. But before I even start that, I just really want to give a quick nod, because this is somebody who really changed my question that I was asking when I was working in public space. And it's an artist by the name of Olafur Eliasson, and he asked a question about how do we become producers rather than mere consumers of space when he was doing his artwork. And this question for me really shifted the way that I was looking at space, because in those earlier images I just showed you of some of our activations, many times what we're doing is we're creating events. So you can always come into a place and create an event and set up a room and set up a space to function in a way that will create the party, essentially. But what oftentimes isn't done is that the community itself is the producer and the one who actually activates the space because of the way that the space is a lot of times. So this began something that really started me really looking very focused at what was going on. And of course, the first thing you do is you watch. And one of the things that I saw, we have 3 urban parks. You can see right here, I made a quick reference. There's something called Sasser Park, Birch Park, and Calle Cuatro Plaza, which is also an urban park because it's run by Parks and Recreation. So Sasser Park is a park that is regularly utilized as what happened there was that a Black Panther, I guess, killed a police officer. So, and it's become a park that is an activist space often. It's only really used for activism. So there'll be speeches, demonstrations. We have a May Day march that occurs in that park. Then we have Birch Park. It's utilized 3 times a year. And that park has Shakespeare in the park. It had a Dia del Nino event. And the last event that was there was an old for elders in the community to do a celebration, like an Elders Day. And then the last park is used for all kinds of things. There's a picture of a concert, and I'll show that a little bit more. Some of the things, so starting with Birch Park. This is a picture which is of the Shakespeare in the park that would occur there annually. Most of the rest of the year, the park is almost completely inactive, even though a senior center sits on the park space. And this is an example of something that we were finding when we would come out. So I helped to manage a Dia del Nino event, which brings about 1,500 people and mostly children out into this park space. This park space is a beautiful old park space, historic. It's been in the city for years and years and years, and it has gorgeous old trees in it. And there, to me, there's absolutely no reason why this park wouldn't be just extremely popular. But one of the things that you find is because of certain features that are not in the park, the space actually has people that come in the evening and they would do heroin, and it became an area that was known for that. So this is the day of the Dia del Nino event, and it happened to be a windstorm the night before. We come out to the park. It's littered with the paraphernalia you can see in this picture. And unfortunately, all of our team didn't even have brooms. We had to use the fronds of the trees to try to clean up. And what we noticed is that the homeless community, a lot of them who were the drug users, they actually came and helped because they were so worried about the children getting poked by the needles. So they helped us to find the needles and actually so that the kids wouldn't get hurt. And we were very surprised by this because when asking those folks without homes, they said if there was children's equipment in this park, they would have more moral conscience about using the park in that way because they are worried about children. And I thought that was a surprising piece of information. The other things, there is no night lighting, no electricity in the park, and no bathrooms. So every time, even when we have an event, the events are very difficult because we have to bring in toilets. At night, it makes it easy for people to hide out in the park and do drugs because there's no lighting in the park. So some of the things that we know about, good placemaking is you have to have an inviting and rich detail. You have to have designed it for lingering, interactive, and social spaces. It has to be unique, accessible, flexible, and safe. And so some of the ideas that we began to think about in terms of this space and its need was, of course, a bathroom, of course, lighting. And then we noticed in a lot of great parks that there is what is these kiosks. So if you go to Bryant Park, for instance, people will be baking warm bread, or in our town, which the demographics are majority Latino, would be like hot tamales. We have people who would love to have something in this park, and then they become eyes on the street, the people that are watching and making sure that there's also not negative activities going on. So one of the things that you can see is this is kind of an overview of the park. And then over on to the right, you can see all of the different things that we could imagine in this space. But even prior to imagining, after the situation with the needles in the park, we went around and talked to our community, and we found out that there were a lot of people who had ideas of things that could be done with this park to help it be more accessible. One of the first things that we found is that the park is surrounded densely by urban fabric, and there's a lot of people living nearby, and people regularly come to the park with their dogs. So one of the things, but there was no dog park. And what we found is that adjacent to the park is a large piece of land that actually is unutilized land. And it was an old road that had been shut off. So directly adjacent, and there was grass over it, and there was an area that was closed off. So, and it even had lighting, so that folks in the community could come and convene together, and actually, as they bring their dogs in, they can end up meeting their neighbors, etc. So a suggestion for a dog park came up, and actually there was even a petition put out and over 500 signatures from surrounding neighbors to actually activate that dog park. But it required that the city open a fence up in the park, so when people walk across it, they could actually go to the dog park. And even the people who owned that property had agreed to this happening. So that was one of the things. The other thing is movable seating. The park could use tons of movable seating. It has some set spots for actually playing chess, etc. And we knew that there was a Tai Chi class in the mornings that would occur in this park from some of the neighbors in the nearby adjacent neighborhood who were part of the senior center. So we loved that, and we wanted to build on that, on the uses that were already occurring in the park. So some of the things that we thought of was yoga. There was a gentleman that after COVID had told us that he lost his karate studio, but he would love to be able to activate the park with karate classes. And the issue is, that I'm sorry. The issue is that a lot of times the way that the city is set up, it makes it so that in order for a person to utilize the park, they have to go through a permitting process. And if a teacher wants to teach at a park, then they have to actually also go through a process where they become an actual teacher through the Parks and Rec system, rather than just being the teacher that they are and using their own, facilitation to come out and utilize and access the park. So these were all blocks to actual use. There was a I don't even remember, I think it was a $50,000 exercise park that was put into the park, and I was there for the ribbon cutting. And I see that space is regularly underutilized as well. So it always demonstrates to me when you see a lot of money put into a space, but at the same time, the non-use, it seems wasteful to me. There was no kids spaces, and we always have believed that children and seniors, it's beautiful to have children and seniors together. So we couldn't understand why children's spaces wouldn't be brought into the use of that park, so that there would be some kind of a relationship between the seniors in our community and the local youth, that are small youth and people in the surrounding neighborhoods. So this was another thing that we really wanted to see happen in this space. And of course, you have to have a bathroom. There is a bathroom in the senior center, but that's not for the general public. So it would be really nice to have one of these beautiful like restrooms in the park. Another thing that folks had told us that they wanted to do was movies in the park on a regular basis. These silent movies, they wanted to do. A local restaurant that was right across the street had been talking about that, and we thought that'd be a beautiful activation of that space and area. But unfortunately, again, the permitting process is cumbersome. It takes time, and they didn't have any system set up to do permitting that's programmatic, meaning that you can have more than one use over time, so that if you wanted to have every Friday night, we're going to have a movie night, it couldn't be done very easily. And you would have to apply every single time, and you'd have to do it 30 days in advance. And it just makes the process very, very difficult. One of the things that happened and has happened since is that as we've been working, I fought with a memorandum of understanding to see if we could help them to program this park more regularly. And it actually, over the 3-year period, they actually have had a lot of different reasons. First was COVID, now it's construction, that memorandum of understanding couldn't go through. And then the next thing that happened is there was a new person who came in, and he actually said that there was a potential for us to make a joint use agreement so that the downtown could help to program the park. But in that meantime, they had the park shut down because they needed to fence in the park so that that the homeless could not utilize the park, and they could lock the gates in the evening. And since that time, that's actually what has occurred in that space. So what I would call that is a defensive design. And now it even feels like to the rest of the public that the park is closed up and it's like a private access space. So unfortunately, I've watched the decline of this space over a large period of time. In the midst of that, we've been trying very hard to try and keep that space open, to allow for community to be able to activate the space and to allow for multiple uses besides the one use that is being utilized now. So this is that piece of land that I told you that's adjacent to the park. And you can see it goes all the way down, and it also is on the other side. It's a very long strip of land that the apartment complex there have told us could be utilized as a dog park. This is a picture of a New York park, which I read in an old article that the Parks and Rec director had thought that the park, he wanted the park to be thought of in the same way as this park in New York City. And I'm really sorry, but I failed to remember the name of this park specifically. But in my mind, this park is not anything like the park that I'm describing right now. And here's the new fencing, just so you can see the new defensive design that is now around the park to keep out the homeless. But as I said, it just gives the feeling that everyone is kept out. Okay, so I think I only have 3 minutes, so I think I'm only going to go into that one park, but I could talk for endlessly about all of the spaces and the different kinds of hardship that I've had with actually the activation of space, but I'm going to stop there.
Thanks, Madeline. I think, yeah, parks historically are always these arenas of urban development that definitely create a lot of stories and narratives, and they symbolize so much. So thanks for sharing some of the aspects of this. I think it's very useful to go over these tensions, so to speak, and because all of us that will deal with some kind of experimentation, probably we have to recognize that parks are places that tensions could be generated and we have to deal with them. So thanks for sharing. Okay, the next, I would like to give the word to our next panelist, Anna Sommerdal, who is a Placemaking Europe leader from Sweden and an urban planner with focus on public space, sustainability, and culture and leisure. She has a great passion for placemaking with culture and art activities, which she sees as fun as an easygoing ways to engage with citizens in city development and strengthen social sustainability. She has perspectives of both doing civil activism and working for the municipality, so she's a great person to listen to in that respect. So I'll give the word to her. Anna, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Let's see if I will be able to share my presentation. Where is that button there? I'm so used to Teams nowadays. Where do we have there, the share scheme. Sorry. Can you see anything?
No, not yet.
No, still. No, that was strange. Try again. I wonder if it's only you who can share, Todor, or if it doesn't work for my.
Okay, let me see. I downloaded your presentation here, so I can share it for you. And you just have to give me an indication when to switch slides.
It will be great.
Okay.
Okay, wonderful to see you all. So nice that so many people have joined, and happy Easter. I'm Anna, and my Easter present for you is to let you inside of my head for a while. So let's start this presentation. Can take the next picture. So why placemaking? And this question I'm putting on myself, like why did I get hooked on this method? And for me, it was for two reasons. The first reason, next slide, is the passion of meeting new people. So as you can see in this picture, this is several people I met in just one of my projects, and I still have contact with them. So yeah, this is one great thing about placemaking. You get all these new friends. And then, yeah, next. Then it's the joy of being creative. Because, you know, I play music and I've done some theater and stuff. So for me, to be creative is something really joyful. So here you can see some things that are inside my head, in the head of a placemaker. So that's also a great thing about it. Now you all disappeared. Go back. Yeah, so today I'm gonna tell you about how I think when I create some kind of new placemaking idea. So and make that into some kind of tool, how it's developed. And one of the tools I've worked with, just for a bit at least, is karaoke as a placemaking tool. In 2017, I was in Berlin, and I attended this karaoke in Moore Park. I don't know if any of you have been there, but it's so wonderful. They have this big flea market, and at the same time in this amphitheater, they have karaoke. And it's really simple. They have this karaoke, so people are singing and it's for free. And then you see this great crowd. I think it's at least 1,000 people, and they sing along. So it's like a great community thing. And I think the only source of income that these people who do the karaoke is actually selling beer. So they go around this karaoke and singing, selling beer and letting people sing. So it's really a nice event with people of all ages every Sunday. So I saw this wonderful community thing and was just, I have to bring this to Sweden. It's so wonderful. This feeling of community that delivers. So one way of inventing new placemaking ideas is to borrow concepts. I think most of us do that in some ways. And to take it from one context to your own context and make them your own. So that's what I wanted to do with this then, some kind of knowledge transfer. So we can take the next slide. So 2019, me and some other local placemakers in Stockholm, we decided to do this urban karaoke, we called it. So karaoke outside. And it was also done in my neighborhood. So I could say I'm also the local here. And it was an NGO project, so not really money involved, just doing it for the fun of it. And I saw in Berlin that karaoke could really be a tool to engage people in this place and in the process, but also a way to create interaction, right? So it's really wonderful tool to use. So I would say, as I said, with the Berlin karaoke, they have different parts. It's like a recipe, really. You're cooking something. So you have the amphitheater, you have the flea market close by, you sell your beer, you have people singing along. It's quite simple. So we also have some kind of recipe here with the different parts. So the next slide we can have. So first we have a bridge. Yeah, it's a really wonderful bridge called Tranebergsbron, or Traneberg Bridge. And then we have collaborations, of course, with the local actors. That's usually something you have in placemaking processes. So we did collaboration with the Red Cross, who work with the youth in the neighborhood. So they were there and they were serving coffee and talking to people and trying to interact with the youth. And then we also invited a youth house with kids that have different disabilities. So they went to one of the karaoke sessions, I think, and also sang karaoke. And then we have the next thing in the soup, sort of, and that was an art exhibition. And that was because we had 2 artists in our little placemaking group. So 2 of them, they decided to arrange something really small with some art exhibition here. And then we have the next thing in the soup. So in Sweden, we have something called a Swedish fika. I don't know if you've heard of it, but in Sweden, we like to drink coffee and talk to each other during work hours. It's a way of relaxing a bit, like at least 2 times a day. So we have like a bun and we have some coffee or tea and we talk. So what we did was having this Swedish fika. So we had coffee, we had tea, we had some cookies, and everything was for free during the karaoke sessions. And then we have this last part, which is the karaoke. So together, all of this created something that was sprung from the Berlin karaoke, but it was really something different also. And it was really a really nice experience. So it's just as simple as that, you know. If you want to take something old and make it new. And I still have a lot of ideas of how to evolve this karaoke thing. But you know, as what happened in 2020, it was the pandemic, so we couldn't do any more karaoke. But now I'm looking forward to starting this up again. And maybe I will come to your town, you never know. So maybe next slide. So maybe next time, maybe karaoke goes samba, because you know I also play samba, so why not do samba karaoke next time? What do you think? Something for you, maybe? Thanks, that was all for me.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. I think it's indeed, it's very, as we spoke earlier with you about it as well, it's very interesting and it's very relevant for us to speak about how we can transfer concepts and ideas and how this could be, you know, adjusted. So I think in that sense as well, probably it will be interesting for whoever got inspired from somebody else, just speak about it. I think you can have a lot of feedback on that, what to take care of and how to realize this process, because of course it has its specifics. Yeah, thank you, Monica. I just saw your comment that probably this could be fixed with like just making co-host everybody that has to present. But anyway, now I think we can proceed with the second part of this session, which will be basically we sharing ideas that we have in our mind for the upcoming challenge. I have some names that are fed to me by Ryan that I would like to invite first. Laura and David from Growing Experience. I see one Laura and one David. I don't know it's you guys, but if it's you, can you just go ahead?
It's just David. I think the Laura on here might be a different Laura.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks for including me. I'm David Hedden. I'm with the May Center. That's meditation, agriculture, yoga, and education. And we're based in Central Long Beach. But we are taking on a very large, exciting project in North Long Beach called the Growing Experience. And it's been an urban farm for about 20 years and 7.5 acres on County of Los Angeles land. Let's see. Anyways, the county ran it for, since its inception. We're on a low-income housing community of about 750 families. And so the May Center, we are a nonprofit that is coming in to basically relieve the county of their obligation to maintain this space. And there's pressure from, developers to turn this into housing. So we're trying to come in from an urban agriculture, healing and wellness space show that we can work in tandem with housing, not in opposition to. So that's a big concept we're trying to show, is all the different ways we can use open space and healthy, active, spaces to engage with the community. And so it's been kind of fallow for the past 2 years during COVID. Most of the staff has been let go or reassigned. And then up until about a month ago, single-handedly, Manuel, the longtime staff, finally retired, but he was more or less keeping the grounds and planting lots of trees in his time, before we were able to step in. So anyways, Earth Day is going to be our soft launch to come in and kind of represent what the May Center is doing at this site. And so we've got some exciting collaborative events going. We partner with Long Beach Fresh from Long Beach, but we also we're bringing the Long Beach Symphony to the garden, to the farm. They're trying to they're doing a program called Bridges, where they're working or bringing the symphony out to parts of the community that have difficulty getting to the symphony. So in reverse, they're coming out to the communities. So we're one of their first activation points for that. Anyways, beyond that, we're going to be doing farm tours, garden tours, workshops, working with the local master gardeners to provide gardening and info like that, local beekeepers, an eco marketplace with local eco vendors. So we're just trying to bring a lot of different activities, art, music, engagement, and then kind of represent where we're planning to take this space. So that's kind of a nutshell of what we're working on.
I just had a nice reminder from Ryan as well. Like it's good to also to clarify when you're presenting your ideas, what are you planning to do next week or for this Earth Day, or like are you planning to do all of this, or just which step of it exactly? So Anna and Madeline can give you and the rest of us some feedback or ideas.
Sure. So yeah, so Earth Day next Friday is when we're bringing the symphony out. When we're doing this first kind of activation of the space, and then that kind of sets the tone for what will be some of the ongoing programming. So yeah, it's been a lot of cleanup and kind of just getting prepared for that. So
what I think was really cool about what David is doing is, and with Laura, is that there's this total mix of uses in the space. So while it's been kind of an urban garden, it's going to have the symphony out there. It's going to have drone races. It's going to have, free food. So they're really utilizing the power of 10 and making just something for everybody. And it's going to be really interesting because this space has not always interacted with the wider community. And this is kind of like a blow it all up. And everything is happening and going down during Earth Week to help inspire sort of a more park-like activation of this urban garden. So we'll look forward to seeing pictures and hearing more from maybe even an audio clip of what you guys capture next week. But so do Madeline or Anna, from your experience, and I know Madeline's actually been to this park, have any feedback for David and wishing him well for his project next week?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I am very excited to hear that the growing experience is being curated by David Hedden and Lara, because you guys do a beautiful job also with the Cambodian community, with the May Center. And also I know that I know how creative, both artistically and scientifically. And I remember actually taking our community, the Building Healthy Communities community, to the growing experience. And it was the first time that they got to see hydroponics and all the different things that were there at the time. And I believe it was you, David. And I beauty of this space. And I always wondered what was going on with the interaction with the adjacent community, which I believe is like housing that was military housing originally, and then became like affordable housing for a local community, but there was very little interaction. So I'm just excited to see what occurs, what kind of, what will happen.
Definitely, us too. And we do have a good partnership with the resident services. And so there's a lot of families that will be coming out, and Earth Day is actually one of their more kind of seasonal highlight events of the year. So just looking forward to getting out there. Yeah. And just to add on to what Ryan was saying, people, hear of an urban farm or even parks, I would say in general. And you don't necessarily think of drones in a good way, but there's a very active population of like drone racing and stuff here in Southern California. And so we're working with professional drone trainers to teach the residents here how to fly, and we're going to put our own permanent track in the farm so that we'll have our own drone racing team, and eventually have other teams from around the area come out and compete at our home track. And to be a professional pilot, you don't even need a driver's license. So it's finding new ways to engage some of these local residents with exciting things. They're very excited about that program. So just plugging in new ideas. I like the karaoke idea too. So.
David, can I ask a quick question? Sorry, this is an existing development, and you have this land next to it, and they're letting you use it for this, or you're engaging it in this urban ag project. Is that right?
It's about 62 acres, low-income housing community owned by the Housing Authority of LA. I believe it's the first low-income housing community in California.
Okay.
And like Madeline said, it was had various demographics over the time, but our farm, 7.5 acres, is on that same low-income housing. So our main priority is to serve the residents, but the capacity of the county to engage with the community just wasn't efficient before, and so they're saving quite a bit by letting us come in and be the activators.
Very cool.
Okay. Just Anna, if you can reflect on that a little bit fast, and then we can move on. Yeah, because.
So, have you thought about even getting more themes connected to like the urban gardening theme? Like, I don't know, you work with a bit of restaurant stuff connected to the food that you're getting through the urban gardening, or?
Yeah, we work with a lot of local chefs. So, I mean, we're just getting started kind of at a small scale before we engage more. But we have some of our programs will be working to serve local restaurants. We'll be working with local chefs. And the other side of the year, we'll be having a farm to table dinner. That's kind of a big fundraiser and that sort of thing. So
how about harvest feasts, this kind of party stuff?
Exactly. We're trying to engage in more like regular based kind of feast, share around a big table kind of atmosphere, just throughout the year, and less formal events too.
And it feels a bit hard to contribute with anything when you have thought about so many good things. Maybe you can have urban gardening karaoke. Everyone has to sing about tomatoes or cucumbers or something. I don't know.
Anna, could you describe a harvest fest by you? Because those aren't that big around us. We're in the city.
Okay, yeah, I think we did that when I did something called the Year of Urban Gardening in one municipality in Stockholm. So was one day when we just took all the crops and harvested them, and we had some kind of feast. Invited everyone to come and take a carrot home or something, actually. So that was a bit different, but you can also sell them, of course, or cook something out of them. Just one day when you come with all your crops, I guess. Celebrate.
All right.
Very cool.
Yeah, this is good. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for the feedback. I think we should move on as well because we have some more ideas to go through. Okay. The next one in my list that I have here, featured by Ryan, is Laura Robinson. I see she's here. So I'll just directly give you the word and tell us something. I have the keyword of outdoor art gallery. So can you please share with us a little bit more?
Yes. We are avant-garde gallery. We have the name garden, but we're really an art gallery. And we've been in downtown Santa Ana Art District for about 34 years now, I think. And we belong to a nonprofit, and we had to move from 207 Broadway to 417, which put us at the far corner of the Arts District, but we were still there. And I had many conversations with Madeline, and the word is, if nothing's happening there, make something happen there. And so we have tried to do that. And this year, in January, I went out of the state and came back, and there had been 2 horrific things happen in our corner, not on our side of the street, but the other side of the street, that involved a couple of deaths. And they were 1 week apart. And I was beside myself with upset. And I said, no, get out of here. No, we're going to make it happen. We're going to bring the light to this side of the street. So across the street used to be a place, a parklet. It was a little inset, and I thought it belonged to the city. There were little park benches, and of course, the homeless thought that was great. And so there was yelling and screaming and the needles and everything, but it was on that side of the street. Well, that got, Santa Ana said, oh, that's federal property. And no one knew exactly whose property it was, but there was this beautiful white fence that was put across all of it after the park benches were taken out. And when I looked at the space every day, I said, what a beautiful white fence. And as opposed to the black fence that was mentioned today, it was a white fence, and I begged to have something happen to it. And through the fence, you'd see beautiful bushes that had been a part of the little parklet, and beyond that was a big parking lot, and beyond that was the Reagan building, which is one of the civic buildings. They're quite beautiful and a large expanse for the eye to appreciate, but it begged me to put art on that fence. And so January, I come back and this horrific thing happened, and Madeline encouraged me a couple of years ago, Laura, just do it. And I said, well, okay, Madeline, you'll bail me out, right? So this time I went down to the police department because I heard there was a permit. And I looked at that permit, and it was 30 days, and I wasn't willing to do that. And I wasn't willing to pay $180 because I have a business license. And so I felt it was right. I went and I talked to the police department, and they said, well, this application says, will you block traffic? And I said, of course not. We're just hanging on the fence. Will you inhibit pedestrian traffic? Hardly. And you've got 15 feet here. It's just going to hang on the fence for 6 hours. 7 hours. And so anyway, I problem solving. I sat across the street very quietly, and I problem solved the whole thing. And I said, Black History Month is this month. I'm doing it. So within a week or so, I had plotted it out, and I had touched bases with the police department. So, and so on a Saturday morning, we did a guerrilla thing, ran out there and put big art. See, the thing about big art, it's not a mural. It's not going to stay there, right? But big art, a lot of people, artists have it in their garage because there's not a lot of places you can put it. And so I said, big up, the word I want, big art, big art. So at 9 o'clock in the morning, we ran out there, we put it up by 10, and it was there for until 4 that afternoon. And the community were blown away. The artists were blown away too. And the fact that I didn't get arrested, I was blown away. But the policeman came by, and he did one of those, he turned his lights on and he did whoop, whoop. And then he stuck his hand out the window and gave me a thumbs up. And we were projecting music across the street, directly across the street. So it was a beautiful, beautiful day. And I went, oh, this is a good idea. So then came March, and March was Women's History Day. I said, and we had learned things about the wind and, how best to do the whole thing. And so we decided to do women, celebrating women. The first one was celebrating African-American experience. We had paintings about Africa and coming into the United States, famous Americans, Black Americans, and it was the entire experience and told the whole story. The women's history one was a lot of paintings by men celebrating women. And so when this opportunity came up, I thought to myself, do I dare try it again? And, and apparently it seems to be okay. It's kind of a no man's land. And in one of my videos, I have a security officer from the federal property looking at the art and nodding in approval. So, hey, it's something that should have happened, and it did happen. And to get a grant for it, so I have 22 years of volunteerism, right? And daring things. And for this to be actually funded and as well as approved, I was blown away. So anyway, our next one is coming up April 23rd, the day after Earth Day, and it's going to be celebrating the natural world.
Do you have a clear? That's wonderful, actually. Do you have an idea what exactly you do then?
Ryan, can you play those clips?
Yeah, I was just looking them up. So I have some pictures or videos, and I'll find them and we'll play them as you guys give your feedback, maybe.
Yeah, I guess Madeline, it seems like you're very aware of the context. Maybe you go ahead first, and then Anna can chip in.
So
I bet.
I wanted to comment, congratulations. And I'm very moved listening to you and hearing you talk about this, Laura. It's amazing because I know that after the very first placemaking conference that Ryan had gone to, we had done a assessment of that specific area that Laura is talking about, where all of the merchants and folks came together, even from the county building and the federal government, and we're really talking about the space she's describing, because it is a divided space. Like literally on the same block, you have the county government, you have the federal government, and you have the downtown. And so the ownership of the space essentially is divided between 3 groups. So every time you want to do something, you have to get, here's her, this is great. Ryan's actually playing it so you guys can see. But one of the things that was it's awesome that this is the first engagement along that corridor, and we really have worked on different things, including getting lighting up there, because we noticed standing on one side of downtown, we noticed that nobody would ever walk to the end of the block. And the first thing we did is we're like, well, it's because it looks like it's not open at night on the night of Art Walk. So we got everyone lights along that way, and Laura put up lights, and everybody in there put up lights so that we could start to see it and people would continue walking. So, and then again, this activation, which is directly across from where her gallery is just it's just really incredible. And I just love seeing just the creative use of space and the way that it creates engagement from the community, like somebody walking to work on a normal day suddenly having art in there, having the artwork right in front of them is really, I mean, it's a powerful thing. It makes people stop in the same way that like being able to dance in the evenings does, you know? So it's great. I really appreciate that you've done this.
And I'll just add that maybe a next step or to add to this would be to add some seating, because I've noticed that definitely like seniors in the community love to like sit at cool places like this and watch people, and it might make it more of a place if there's some unobstructed seating, and maybe you could borrow some from your friendly downtown business association at request to Jose at downtown-inc.com.
Laura, can I ask a question? Just real quick.
Yeah.
So you put it up for a day and then they came in. Did they tell you to take it down at the end of the day, or you just decided to take it down?
No one ever told me to take it down. No, but just for the protection, the safety, we put it up so that it officially opened at 10 o'clock and closed at 4. And because it was starting to get dark at 5, this next show is going to be, we put it up at 9, it's open at 10, and it'll go until 5. And like I said, we have music playing across the street, directed at this side, of course, and across the median, and everybody loved it. It was just great, but it was such a bright spot compared to all the darkness that had happened in the month before. The only thing we had to deal with was the wind, but we have mastered that now. We know exactly what to do. And you know something? We leave and there's no footprint. None. Okay.
I put it in the chat too, but this is really cool because this actually used to be an open public space. It was a little park, it had benches, and the homeless basically took it over. And the federal government, who owns the adjoining property, basically their solution, we did a place game there. We came up with all these ideas to turn it into this kind of communal living room, but the federal government instead put a big fence right in front of what used to be the public space. So now the plants and all that are like in a prison. So this is a very bold action that you took by, it's basically federal property. They have been known to be slightly anal about the property because it's adjacent to a federal courthouse. But this has just been so cool, and it enlivens that corridor, and it also maybe could lead to something, and your gallery's right across the space, so it kind of acts as a billboard for that area as an arts and creative space. So really cool stuff here.
Thank you. Thank you. I was afraid that, okay, I'm going to open it up so everybody's going to, slam it and, graffiti it, and it never hasn't happened yet. So.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. Do you have some reflection on this or how it could be improved?
Yeah, I'm trying to get some ideas, but I'm starting to think about this really nice industrial area in Sweden, in Stockholm, where they have this street art festival every year. So it's not really the same because these are paintings, but it's really interesting because every year they make new paintings for this festival, and you can be there and see when they make the paintings. So it's really amazing. And I'm thinking, like, could it be some more interaction connected to the space? Could could some of the paintings be made in the place and people can see how they are done, or could you invite kids or people in general to learn how to paint or do some kind of workshop connected to the space so there's more things going on? That's my
If
thoughts.
we continue this, every month is going to have a different theme, and we'll be doing all sorts of interesting things, especially with kids. But yes, we did have a live painter. Eddie De La Barca did
Cool.
in the last show. So we're just kind of playing it by ear, making sure we're good neighbors, making sure we don't cause too much trouble.
Or does the project have a name? Like you said, you got a grant. Is there a way to follow it online?
Oh, well, yes, it's called Inspire the Parks. And so this fence is an expression of a park needing a place to happen. And so we've just created the outside of it. And yes, it will. I don't have an answer to that, where you could go see it, except our Facebook page, Avant-Garde, the art gallery.
Can you type it in the chat if you have? Probably it will be useful.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, I hate to be that guy, but to be fair to everybody, I think we have to keep it up to 10 minutes for idea and feedback, because we have 3 more people at least. I know, Monica, you raised your hand before, but I have 2 more names in my list, and I have to, if it's okay with you, I just give first the word to Dennis Reynoso, and after that followed by Roger Ice, and then we can move to you. So Dennis, can you please, just share your idea?
Hi. Yeah, I'll make it quick. Madeline did a wonderful presentation about Birch Park. I live in downtown Santa Ana. I'm the Downtown Neighborhood Association president. And I wanted to focus my attention to Birch Park because, much like Madeline, I'm very passionate about reactivating that area for the residents here in downtown to be able to use it. A lot of feedback I get from residents is that the kids don't have anywhere to play. There's a lot of complexes, apartment complexes, condominiums that don't have any green space. So I want to focus my attention on Birch Park because they can walk to it. And it's just so unfortunate that they don't have a children's area. So for my Earth Day project, on the 23rd, Saturday, the 23rd, my plan is to first, kind of similar to Laura's idea, but not on that scale because I'm not an artist or anything, but I just kind of wanted to have some sort of community temporary artwork where kids can bring recycled stuff and we can paint them and put it all together into artwork that we can hang up on the gates, since it's a fenced gate now. And just to kind of draw them out to the park. And then I also want to get a lot of like outdoor play equipment, toys, things, again, just to encourage them. I could bring chalk and hopscotch. I found like some tiles that you can put out for hopscotch, and just things like that to encourage them to come to this area, let the community see that the kids want to use the space and be there to play. I also got I want to get some seating, just like that I can use temporarily, like pillows that they can sit on and just enjoy the space. We can bring some books to read, have a story time. So those are my ideas for the 23rd. And then also in the downtown area at Calle Cuatro, we're doing a kids zone, which happens to follow on the same weekend as Earth Week. So I think it's cool to also kind of use some of those ideas on that day as well. But that's what I have planned.
Nice. Okay. Thanks for sharing. I guess I can switch it over this time. Anna, do you would like to reflect on the idea and what could be how you can enhance that?
Yeah, it feels like you have a lot of ideas though, so it's it's a bit hard to contribute with something. But maybe to if you're gonna do it on Earth Day, to combine it more with that as a theme. So what could that be? Talking about the Earth in different ways, maybe. I don't know. Climate change is not so fun to talk about, maybe, but do something that's more connected to the Earth Day and inform them about what that means. But maybe using art and stuff. But maybe that you have already thought of that, but just to connect it more.
Yes,
Maybe plant something, some
Yeah.
seeds.
I think that's great also, or what they can do, you know, even if it's the
Right, is
conversation
what I
switch over, like not the big picture, but even the small picture, that it could be easy to be comprehend. I think it's a good input.
There's so I don't know if you have it in the US, but in Sweden we have something called swap days. Do you have that? You can bring your stuff that you don't need, like clothes, for example. We can have swap days for, and you bring your stuff and you turn it in, and you can take something else, and someone takes your
Okay.
stuff. Maybe something similar, but for kids with toys or something.
Yeah,
That's quite
that's a cool idea.
sustainable. I don't know.
Right?
We'll do that on Earth Day in Sweden.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that's cool. That's a cool idea. Thank you.
And Madeline, do you want to?
Yeah,
Jump
so
in.
that sounds really exciting, and it just made me think, as Anna was talking too, that the local trash company, we had actually spoken to the one that was our previous contract with the city of Santa Ana, and they're very excited to be a part of the recyclable projects. So if
Mhm.
you are doing something with recyclable, I think it's really interesting. And I've seen some beautiful things where folks have taken caps, for instance, of bottles, and created beautiful murals out of caps, or
Yeah.
and CDs. We saw this thing in Tulum, which I know
Oh.
that Roger probably got to see as well. And there was CDs that were turned into these almost like what were those, like a doily, like things that could hang from trees. And
Oh, how cool.
there's another thing we saw, which was like people would have poems, like they would write, the kids could write poems
Yes.
and actually dedicate the poem to a tree, and then each of those trees will have their own story in the park. So it starts to
Oh.
also create this relationship between the real tree, the actual tree, and the youth, and then bring other people in, almost like a gallery experience, to meet all the trees
Right.
that could be named as well by the children. So
That is so cool. I love
yeah.
that.
And just so you know, as a part of support, when you said chairs and stuff, remember again to ask Jose, because we have all those Adirondack chairs and we can help.
Okay. Thank you. I love that.
Then I have just to say this: you can always invite a samba band, and then you can make all the kids make their own instruments out of used bottles. You fill them with rice or something, and then you paint them, and then you can have the samba band lead some kind of music session. We do that with one of my samba bands. So easy way to make this nice instruments.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for all the ideas.
I love that idea of making a little noise. And also just want to remind you, we had Jamie from Tulsa from Scraps Design on our first webinar. And she had this whole thing about building stuff out of, cardboard and hanging stuff too on trees. So there's some different, I don't know how to advance through this, but some different kinds of stuff in here.
Yeah, I rewatched it. I rewatched that one because I missed that meeting. But
oh yeah, here it is.
I saw that.
Yeah.
So cool.
Cool.
Yes, cool stuff. Yeah, I think if you rewatch it, it's great. Yeah, it's a very inspirational talk. Okay, next person we would like to move on is Roger. Roger, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. How's it going,
Yes.
guys?
Hey, nice to have you. Can you give us a little bit of insight about your idea for our day?
Yeah,
Nice
yeah.
t-shirt.
I want to start by kind of referencing Madeline's presentation because I got really excited when I heard her talk about Birch Park. I'm gonna start with that, then I'll get into my project. Birch Park is a park that I've had my eye on for many, many, many years for all the reasons that Madeline has mentioned, and I have made some attempts to. Well, this is my idea. Santa Ana needs a sculpture park. It needs it. It just needs it. And I want to be involved or really just take the lead on that. I've had talks with the city, but there's just so many hurdles and it's really hard to kind of get the city to want something like that, which is, I don't know why, but I don't want to get too much into it. But because of these challenges too, all the other parks that mentioned, Sasser's Park, they're all closed off. They don't have, they're inaccessible. And so I was trying to find a connection or how I could do this. You know, the parks are kind of closed and we can't get people in there. And so I was inspired by some of the guerrilla gardening that I saw on one of the other webinars. And I wanted to bring the green of the park to the people or have them, you know, take that home. And so I came up with a plan to do a seed stand where people can come by and get seeds and, you know, create their own green spaces because we don't have access to them. So if you're in downtown, like everyone said, you got to go somewhere far to go have your dog take care of business, or if you want to just even go for a jog, you just got to do it on the sidewalk. There's no real spaces like that. And so I really just wanted to give people an opportunity, or my community an opportunity, to grow something in their own gardens and make those spaces for themselves. And because, I mean, there is, I was thinking again, Birch Park, and all these things have been said, but there is a senior community there. And a lot of folks, they don't really go out that much. That's about as far as they go out. There's also, I believe, like a tall residency building right next door or across the street. And again, you know, this park just looks closed. It's not being used, and it's for them. It's for everybody. And so, I was just really trying to connect with people in this way by offering them an opportunity to grow something, and that's the approach that I took. But until we can, I mean, Brandon's just right. You know, there's so many hurdles, or so the city makes it so tough to do anything in parks. I mean, I had my idea for the seat stand was to have it available at a park, but if I leave it there, they'll just throw it away. They'll just treat it as trash, or someone left it there. So I can't do that. And you know, when the parks are closed too, that doesn't really help. And so I'm trying to find ways to. It's been a little bit of a challenge to find a place to host it, but what I'm really coming up with, and I don't think I've shared this with Ryan either, is I know that I've seen, and I don't think it was in one of the webinars here. I think I might have just seen it like on TV or something. But they'll rent out. I think they do it in San Francisco. They go to meter parking and they just lay out, like they make a little park, right? And they just kind of like hang out. So I'm thinking I might end up just doing that, doing a little setup, having little seeds, and just talk to people and just bring parks into a conversation and talk to the community and just find solutions to see what they want and just have those conversations, you know, because if I can't go to the park, or people can't go to the park, then I want to talk to them about it, you know, and bring it up and see what we can come up with. And yeah, I mean, that's my idea. It's pretty simple, but I took a different approach. And but again, I really have like a dream. My dream would be to Birch Park, a sculpture park. It just makes sense to me. I mean, there's already something there that we can build upon, but I mean, I know the city doesn't want to take care or maintain projects like that, but you know, so I mean, depending on what your the medium is, patina looks great on sculptures. You know, like it ages well, and you don't have to take that much care of it. But they don't seem to listen to something like that. But that's it. That was my idea of just a seat stand, provide for the community, have these conversations, and I think I'm gonna have to do a little kind of like a park setup and reach my community that way.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for sharing. I think this is also something that is you actually describe it very well. The big idea and like the small steps towards it. I think that's also a very great thing about these initiatives that we're trying to push each other to do. That even if you don't realize the final thing, just the first step, it's something that it's good to start up.
Yes.
Well, I think this is really interesting idea because maybe it's all connected that you go out there next week and you've got these seeds and you're planting the seed of the idea of the sculpture park.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I think actually, I mean, the park is now fenced in, which is a real problem, but it also creates an opportunity that it's locked at night. So it's actually more like a sculpture garden would be. I think it's something that, you know, Denise, your group's talking about tonight, stuff to go in the park. So maybe this sort of public engagement is something that we talked about is really important in opening up uses of the park, whether it's a sculpture garden, kid zone, and hopefully both coexisting along with the symphony and urban karaoke and all those types of things. But I'll hand it off to like Madeline.
I'm getting really moved right now because of just even the ideas of the activation of the space and different folks in the local community doing that. I love Roger's idea of the sculpture garden, and I even know like we went to an urban farm where the urban agriculture had met, and this woman had this way of having like her space was not decorated, but she had a sculpture garden in this small space. And I asked her who did these sculptures, and she said it was an artist in Venice Beach. And I got this guy's name because remember when we did the Wings of the City in Santa Ana, we actually wanted to do his brother as well. And his brother still may come maybe after the construction, but this guy, I have him, and it would be a good starting place. And I would love to connect with you, Roger, on that. But in terms of your seed garden or seeding, I love it too. And I don't know if you know, but last year for this specific challenge, we actually have started really asking people, like, for instance, Lonnie has taken over by Bloom Studios, the space, and there's a huge area with trees. And we're like, we just need to start guerrilla gardening the downtown because we've worked for a long time, even to landscaping, and we planter boxes, and I still haven't seen them catch. And I'm really disappointed by that, but I love the fact that there's seeds, and that's this idea. Last year we also had Stephen, who did a whole thing where he checked to figure out with all of the plants which plants could interact to bring bees and pollinators in.
Nice. I love it.
We know that, like, if we want a fence to grow, let's say along the blue lot, so that there's like passiflora along the whole blue lot fence, we need to have plants and things that other animals, we need to attract the whole ecosystem to create the planting engagement in the downtown. And we realize that there is a lot that needs to be done, but there's so many spaces that could be seeded essentially and beautified if that just became a thing to guerrilla garden it, because we asked, and at first there was like $10,000, I guess, allocated for that area. Then 40,000 was put, but it's the first year I've seen lantanas grow even in the center plot. So I just love your seeding idea. And I think there's so much potential for both and all the ideas that you brought up.
Thank you so much. You know, I'm glad that you guys read between the lines. It really did come to me as a way to kind of plant the seeds, you know, and have these conversations. And It's really exciting. I did reach out to Lonnie too. I hope to hear back from her soon. But one of the other things that I think I did leave out is as kind of like an enticing or encourage people to come by and grab some seeds. Is I'm gonna have a little bit of a scavenger hunt and design some pots and paint them and kind of just hide them and have them find them so they can kind of take that with them too.
And
Just a little
you know,
element.
if you make a beautiful poster, we'll help you get it printed so you can put it everywhere so people will know about the seed garden.
I'll take care of that. That's not a problem.
Okay.
Okay,
you.
Anna, I think go ahead. You're waiting for a bit.
Yeah. Did I understand you right, Roger, that you're planning to do some kind of park in a parking space, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think that might be a good option for me because, yeah, just to kind of connect all that. Yeah.
So maybe that could also be an engagement thing. So if you're making this park, engage people with making it. Build it together with them and say that maybe this is a replica of the park that you're talking about. So try to make it maybe similar if you want. And maybe you can even put small sculptures just to visualize your idea. So it's like, maybe this is how it could look. So we make it a small one and then we're going to make it big, right?
Oh,
so just play with the thought a bit.
Thank you for that. Yeah. I think I might take you up on that.
And also in Sweden, I'm not sure if this goes on everywhere, but we usually you have these plant swaps as well as clothes swaps. So we give each other our plants that we made at home. Maybe that could be something as well. I don't know.
That'd be fun.
But I think you should engage people building your park. Like, let's build a park.
Like You're right. I love it. Thank you so much.
Like grassroots urban planning, like bringing people on the table and discussing the idea. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I'm really looking forward how this will turn out. Okay, I think, thanks for sharing, Roger. I think it's great. A lot of potential there. So Monica, it's up to you. So we have some time left. So please go ahead and present what are you thinking about during this event.
Thank you, Todor. Can I share my screen now? I don't think you could operate my screen. It's a mural, so.
But you can. Okay, I'll make you a co-host. I hope this will work.
Oh, it worked. I'm on. Yeah, it's open. Awesome.
Excellent.
Okay, so my name is Monica Williams from Pontiac Economy Incubator, and I hope I can get all this right without getting myself into too much trouble politically, but because I'm going to use this video. But we in our downtown, we do not have facilitation and management that has a similar mindset as Madeline and Ryan. We have people that are very hostile to placemaking, and especially placemaking. It could actually kind of maybe pass as placemaking in some ways, but when it comes to community engagement, it's acts very hostile. So I lost my mural. I had another one up. Sorry. But we were just awarded this $56,000 Kaboom grant, which, if everyone's familiar with Kaboom's main intention is to share play. And this particular grant, a lot of their grants go to playgrounds, but their Play Everywhere grants are made for downtown areas and places that it's very informal play. It doesn't need to be considered playground equipment and all of that. So that was the grant that we originally applied for, and our work on this park has gone back to 2014. We located we had an office in the building, this building here, which has this beautiful alleyway. It's right on Saginaw Street, which is the core street of our downtown. It's a 6x9 block grid, which we've been trying to model that Pontiac development concept could become something like a Barcelona super block, because it's such a small 6x9 walkable area. You could do shuttles, and there's parking literally everywhere surrounding this one little street. So we've always been about, having no cars on that one little stretch, going back to 2014. And this was just our first engagements with our little pocket park next to us. And we were working just with the people that were surrounding the site and that naturally cared about it. We had a glass artist, and she was looking at the fountain, which of course had no water. We have, this is the neighboring, he's no longer with us. He passed away. His name was Ted Buckner, but he owned Buckner's Deli and Desserts. And so we were working, like you could build out windows in his building to see the park. And this here, this is Nasheed Suleiman. He's also known as One Below, and he's a native Pontiacian hip hop artist, underground hip hop artist, and he's known around the world. And Jeremy he is a media production person. So just within that first little cohort, we had a lot of organically engaged and community talent that could activate and make the park better. So we applied eventually for a City of Pontiac Neighborhood Empowerment Grant, and we rebuilt this staircase with it. And that was just kind of phase one. But simultaneously, we were doing parking days, which I don't know if everyone's familiar with parking days, but that's just more about getting rid of cars in cities. And so we've ran parking days since 2017. But at the time when we were doing this park in 2014, we were also, there's a large structure in our downtown, the Phoenix Center, and it's a 6.5 acre public plaza, but it's a rooftop plaza. So it's on top of it's a 2,700 space parking deck. And everyone just thinks of it as a parking deck, but it's actually, the plaza is connected to 2 office towers and our Pontiac Transportation Center. And in Southeast Michigan, car culture, transportation's just a really interesting concept. And when we're thinking about regional development and all of that, we were really interested in the site for other purposes, but it was like Pontiac was under emergency management, so the site was going to be demolished, and we kind of took a stand against it, which got us in trouble politically because it was against L. Brooks Patterson. L. Brooks Patterson is known as King of Sprawl throughout the world, but he was our county executive, and he really, a lot of people look at how he helped destroy Detroit as a county executive. Like, he made his name on segregation and being against busing and all of that early on. That's how he made his name. But he was the county executive for like 2 decades. But Pontiac was his real city. That's, what he really did a number on. And that was his project, was to destroy the Phoenix Center, which we saw it as the only urban asset in downtown Pontiac. And his intentions, emergency management intention, was to bring cars strolling through our little 6x9 blocks downtown, which is a mess. But I wanted to stay totally focused on this park, but all of that work that we did there, because we were at odds with the political system, our Main Street Pontiac, which kind of is the only managerial entity, they just thought, they just plucked our work and shifted it down to the other end. We were doing like a patronicity crowdfunding grant at that time, but we just let that go. And we continued doing work on the Phoenix Center, engaging kids in the park. And our real background's in educational technology, but looking at experiential learning and project-based learning and all that. So we had like the neighboring school was coming down and the kids were generating ideas for a second phase. And then we were doing parking days, and we activated someone activated another space in 7 North, and we came over and helped build out that space, even though we had moved across the street in our offices. But this was like the second phase, and we got a neighborhood empowerment grant, and then we applied for a Kaboom grant. And the Kaboom grant was awarded for $56,000. It got shifted, that once the money came in, it got held up in this crazy political war, and the mayor decided to like put some drums in the park that upset the entire marijuana industry, because all the downtown people were like thinking they are all real estate. They just own buildings. Like they don't do really anything else but own buildings, but they really all believed they were going to hit the jackpot with marijuana. And so the mayor decided to put in drums and classify them as playground equipment, which zoning makes it so that you can't have a marijuana facility within 500 feet of a playground with playground equipment. So she just used it as a political football, our Kaboom grant, and turned the entire downtown, which we're already kind of, not the same kind of people with, but just totally against us. And because they thought the kids then symbolized their crushed dreams and all of that. So making a kid-friendly place has been a real challenge, to say the least. And but anyways, it's all of these good ideas, and we have a new administration now. I hope I'm not going too much over, but we have a totally new administration that got the entire council was voted out, the mayor was voted out, but they're kind of like, as opposed to totally dysfunctional, they're just totally perfect and very technocratic. And they've stumbled on the fact that they have our grant, and that our Kaboom grant is at the time, and the deliverables were pretty clear. Utilizing design partnership with our incubator, and delivering on a stage and a play center and all of that. But they're just getting to it, about in September, after our parking day, we had a meeting with the new grants and contracts manager. She was told to call us by the former mayor. And she was very kind, and she apologized. Actually, we got an apology from the city, which was totally crazy. But I'm trying to find, I thought I brought that in, but she said, we know how much work you've done on this, and I can't believe it's been sitting here for so long, and we're so sorry for this catastrophe. Then we didn't hear from her again, and then we just like last week saw that our Kaboom grant was on the agenda, and it was passed that they could go forward on it. Kaboom grant's up. So and then by the end of the conversation, which was an hour-long conversation, she realized that we should be working with planning on our grant. But we're still not in conversation with planning. So anyways, that's my little political story, and we're hopeful.
Okay, thank you, Monica. I just want to, for the sake of the session and the summary, like which part of the thing you are planning to do for placemaking, like from the challenge, or it's like, are you planning to have some ideas brainstorming about this Kaboom
Yeah.
like realization?
Thank you. Thank you, Todor. I forgot that part. So for Earth Day, we're going to invite our city to come to the Hidden River Park and tell us all of their great plans and see if we can't impact them with all these other interesting ideas that have been generated. They told us the way they presented it to council was that the deliverable was a shades. This is just a small piece of the larger plan for all of the downtown. It's like the leverage point for all of the downtown, which we had kind of thought of it that way all along. And we did that during an arts and culture crawl